Jim Breyer, welcome to Davos. So great to be with you here at another World Economic Forum. We're here in the Belvedere Hotel. We're about to launch into our event here and welcome speakers like Ray Dalio, yourself, others, talking about the trends in AI and also in the economy. Jim, you've been following all these trends. You've been involved. You've been investing in dozens and dozens of companies, including our own. What are you seeing right now at the nexus of AI and healthcare? I know you and I share a passion for medical breakthroughs, diagnostic breakthroughs, treatment breakthroughs. Tell us what you're seeing at the nexus of AI and healthcare.
I will, but Jack, what a pleasure again to be with you here at the Belvedere. And as you recall, and I recall well, our discussions around quantum, AI, and Sandbox started
right here in Davos.
Right here in Davos at
upstairs,
this hotel.
Upstairs, right here.
So it's great to see you again, and of course, we talk every couple days, so it's a genuine pleasure. I've been interested, as you know, as yourself, deepening my knowledge of AI since 2016 and 17, when simultaneous dinners one week with Mark Zuckerberg and later with Sergey Brin, where they each suggested to me, AI is a very big deal, Jim. You should delve in. And so that's what I've done. And around 2019, I started getting very interested in the academic papers around quantum. And I was also throwing myself into where AI and quantum algorithms could make a profound difference in healthcare.
So let's just highlight that, Jim, that AI and quantum, two twin engines of compute, independently very powerful, but also together, interesting synergy. And now take us to healthcare. You've always had this passion for healthcare. Now talk about these twin engines and the healthcare interest.
Absolutely. Well, like many people, when I ask for a show of hands when I'm speaking, we've all been touched either by relatives who've been affected by cardiology treatments, cancer, the various levels of cancer, neurology,
Alzheimer's, dementia, neurodegen. Yeah.
And so when I started speaking to the great medical leaders, a couple of them are Breyer portfolio companies, now Nobel Prize winning scientists, they talked about the need and the use to assist our very best researchers with AI and quantum. And so we never ever will take out the genius neuroscientist at Mass General Brigham or Mayo Clinic, where I know we have a deep partnership, MD Anderson, Hopkins, but using AI and quantitative tools to better assist with great patient outcomes is exactly what our global medical leaders are now thinking about over the next 5 years. So we are just scratching the surface, and it's a tremendous time to be an entrepreneur, tremendous time to be an investor in these areas, but most importantly, a tremendous time looking forward to have the ability to not only have patients live longer lives, but better lives.
Yeah. And Jim, absolutely agreed on that. Let's talk now about the different subtypes of AI. There's been a lot of focus and attention in the popular press, certainly, about large language models. A lot of applications. Certainly every company out there that touches consumers needs to use large language models to cut their customer interface costs, be it customer service set up by phone, could be done by AI, via various channels, marketing and reducing costs there, coding, having the co-pilot with you to increase your coding productivity, all good applications on the language side. But when it comes to healthcare and medical breakthroughs, we both know that on the quantitative side, that really is the way that we're going to unlock these breakthroughs. Models trained on social media and cat pictures, not necessarily going to get us that next treatment for Alzheimer's, for dementia, for cancer, as you talked about. So talk about your perspective on language models, but also large quantitative models, AI trained on chemistry, on biology.
Well, the future for science is the large quantitative models. I'm absolutely certain of that. And if we dial back forward to the mid-90s when everyone was trying to figure out, let's have a web building proposition, or even the number of search companies that existed in that time period. These are fundamentally important consumer technologies. But if we want to model small molecules, ChatGPT and all of its future variants, whether it's GPT-4, 4 plus, 5, are not equipped to help scientists evaluate how are small molecules going to be impacted in such a way from modeling so that we can leap forward and help patients at the end of the day really understand, again, what's going on, whether it's cancer, whether it's cardiology, what is going on, and then how do we bring drugs to market? How do we do therapeutics? How
and also
do we
diagnostics
help
as well.
diagnostics to help patients live longer and better? And we need very deep, large quantitative models to do those kinds of simulations.
Yeah, and you mentioned Mayo Clinic before. Let's talk about that a little bit. This marriage of sensors, data, and quantitative AI. We know that you mentioned cardiology a number of times. Cardiac disease is the number one killer.
Absolutely.
Number one killer in the U.S.
Cancer being number two.
Yep. And so it's clear that even with all the statins, all the treatments we have with cardiology, we still need better diagnostics. And so in that light, we all work together, SandboxAQ, with bringing a new device to light that's in trial right now at Mayo Clinic, collecting data for eventual approval. A device that looks not at the electric field of the heart, but the magnetic field of the heart. And of course, that is quantitative data, a lot of it coming out of that sensor. There's a GPU in that box, and then our quantitative AI model. It's at Mayo Clinic now, it's at Mount Sinai in New York, doing the testing, doing the trials you need to collect that data. Talk about your perspective on that important need for early diagnosis, and also diagnosis at the point of emergency room as well. Talk about that confluence of sensors and AI.
This is the future, and I'm not surprised you've done, and Sandbox, your team has done a remarkable job educating the Mayos of the world, the Mount Sinai's, MD Anderson, Johns Hopkins, Mass General Brigham. These are our great research hospitals. Even the very best cardiologists would say the level of innovation in cardiology treatment and diagnosis over the last 2 decades has been extraordinarily slow.
Yeah.
What you've just described in terms of the magnetic resonance, what you've just described in terms of triage if one is going into an emergency room, Sandbox, in partnership with these great medical schools, hospitals, and institutions, can triage far better. And again, it's all about making a huge difference for the patients, the doctors and the nurses. And 5 years from now, we will look back on cardiology treatment of the last decade or two and think, my goodness, there has not been one area of medicine that is impacted more by these large quantitative models, with leaders such as Sandbox working with best in world hospitals, medical centers, such as the Mayo Clinic.
Yeah. So Jim, final question. As an investor, you've been at the forefront of investing in frontier tech, in deep tech, in tech that others thought, wow, that is beyond our initial model as a VC of consumer tech, apps, productivity tools, things like that. But now the momentum has shifted your way. You're looking at T. Rowe Price, at Alger Asset Management, at major traditional funds now plowing into deep tech as well. Talk to us about the fact that you were at this frontier. What did it feel like when you first invested in this deep tech stuff? Did you feel like you're alone on an island? And how does it feel now that so many of the largest funds are now following that path?
Well, one, they're not following very often, but in a premier, really exceptional company like Sandbox, having had discussions with all those investors, they're following big. But Jack, personal compliment to you and the team. This is where they are deeply focused. And so it's a real tribute to Sandbox. Yes, when we were talking 4 years ago, 5 years ago, around quantum running on NVIDIA chips and others, there were very few, if any, investors when they heard about what I was thinking about,
Yeah.
that said, oh, Jim, please, maybe we should co-invest. Today, and the last 12 months,
Yeah.
there's obviously a lot of hype, but again, it's around GPT. And now I think there's a recognition, rightfully so, the substance
Of this next
going
trend,
forward
yeah.
of LQMs and deep AI, that is the future. So yes, there are premier financial institutions that are now saying this is something that is going to make a very fundamental difference.
Well, Jim, it's so great to have you here with us at our event. Look forward to our continued collaboration. We're already having a big impact. As you know, as the audience knows, our mantra at SandboxAQ is deep impact at scale. Each of those words are important. I know it's important to you, Jim, personally, but also as an investor. It's great to be your friend and collaborator.
And Jack, one last word.
Yeah.
It's through SandboxAQ and your partners, if we take medicine, which are going to truly make huge differences in helping patients live longer, better, and have more information about their medical records. So you are a very important piece of how we are going to revolutionize medicine going forward.
Thank you, Jim. We take that responsibility very seriously. So thank you for your partnership. Thank you, Jim.